If you've ever questioned why love feels out of reach, even when you're doing all of the inner work, this message is for you. In the Ifa tradition, love isn't just about desire, it's about alignment. Your Ori, your ancestors, and other spiritual forces play a role in who enters your life and why. But sometimes imbalances, ancestral patterns, or misguided alliances can block the very connection you're seeking. In today's live stream, we're not just talking about love spells or rituals. We're exploring how spiritual medicine helps you attract love that honors your path, not just your preferences. This isn't about controlling someone, it's about you reclaiming your love life and your destiny. So, if you're ready to understand the difference between manipulation and true alignment, you're in the right place. Because in Ifa, real love begins with knowing who you are and honoring that deeply. We're going live in just a few seconds, so stay close and we'll get started. Greetings, all, and welcome to the live stream. So, we are talking about Love Akose in today's live. So, guys, if you are live, you're watching live right now, feel free to drop any questions or comments, reflections in the chat as we go along, and we'll get to those through and through as we always do. If you are watching the replay, be sure to type replay in the comments section and let me know what stood out to you the most. So let's just dive into it. Today's topic is about Love Akose. So I did get some requests about marriage and sex and love and things like that in Ifa and kind of the teachings on that. We're going to get to that in another episode, probably be in about 2 weeks. I think I have that planned. However, this episode is specifically about Love Akose, so it's about how we attract love and things of that nature. Want to quickly go over the survey results. Thank you, as always, everybody. And welcome as well, everybody who is joining. Got a few people on both platforms. We're on YouTube and Instagram for those of you all who want to know if you're watching live, so you can join on either platform. Also, just going into the results, as I said before, thank you guys for filling this out. I was asking about, what is most important to you when it comes to this dynamic of love and Love Akose and things like that. About half of you all said that you struggle to attract the right partner. The people who answered, 19%. Heartbreak is a major issue. Another 19%. Maintaining that connection, and then 12% emotional openness. And this is definitely on point in regards to what we typically see and in working with the Ifa tradition and people coming to us in relation to dealing with love issues. Most people, it's about attracting that right partner. And we're going to get into all aspects of this throughout the episode. Let me welcome a few people that are putting things on the who are telling us hi and greeting us on YouTube. So greetings, Asaju. Great to have you as always. Our Adissa, thank you for joining likewise. And Orisha Bumi EXO. Thank you all. Thank everybody who has joined and has not said anything. And those of you all who are joining on IG, I see you guys and I welcome everyone. So we're gonna dig into this, starting with the foundation of love in Ifa. So Love Akose, and looking at what this dynamic is related to when it comes to the tradition. So in Ifa, the teaching is that it's great for every man and every woman to have a mate, someone to love as a companion from a romantic perspective. Obviously, too, from a platonic perspective. However, we're focusing more so on the love dynamics, but Love Akose can work both ways, and I'll talk about that a little throughout the episode, right? So it's much better to marry, to be with a permanent partner, than to fall through with the pitfalls of lust, desire, and of course, loneliness. That being said, it is not guaranteed that everybody is going to find a mate during their time on earth, okay? A permanent partner. There's so many reasons for this. Primary among them, or what we're talking about today when it comes to different dynamics related to people desiring, needing, or wanting to work with Love Akose. And what this basically is a spiritual remedy that's created to help you to attract, harmonize, or heal matters of the heart. Anything related to romance, love, just in general, of course, platonic love. So there's also a crochet that you can take if you're having issues with maintaining platonic friendships with the same sex or the opposite sex. So we're not talking about just all love here. It can work either way. Love Akose is, there's certain Akose definitely that is meant to attract someone from a romantic perspective and to attract someone from a platonic perspective. But it kind of all meshes together as far as what we're dealing with, because it's a matter of the heart, the emotions, which can be really, really precarious, tricky, because now we're dealing with two people rather than just one person. All of the other Akose we talked about primarily hinges on you. And likewise, we'll cover the health Akose next week, the same dynamic. But when it comes to the love Akose, we're talking about two people. And it can get a little bit tricky when it comes to this dynamic, okay? Just like with any other form of Akose, you don't have to go through fully DAFA. You can get a Nephi reading. It may even so come up in the Nephi reading that you need to get Love Akose based on your particular circumstance, but it's not required. If you're already working with someone, as I say, just reach out to them. Get a basic check-in. Depending on how you guys work together, you may not even, need to do like an investigation or something like that. You just reach out to them and ask them, what would I need in this situation that can check and get you out, the information that you need. So while you're asking if LGBT people use Love Akose, absolutely. Anybody can use Love Akose. I would definitely encourage anybody who is LGBTQ to talk to their owl about that, though, because the assumption would probably be that you're trying to attract someone of the opposite sex. So you want to definitely look at those particular dynamics. Okay, so love work in Ifa, understand, is not about being desperate. It's not about manipulation or anything like that. Now we're talking about Love Akose. There are remedies. I won't call it a remedy. That's the wrong word. But there are things that you can do to attract love in a way to manipulate people, which is not a good thing. So I'm not saying this like you do it to go out and get somebody just because you want to be with that person. That does happen, though. People know how to do that work. That's not what Love Akose is about. Love Akose, any form of Akose, spiritual medicine, is about alignment. We are aligning with our destiny. That means that the person that you are trying to attract is going to be somebody who is actually meant for you, your path, your destiny. It's not always about, the exact person that you necessarily think that you want, because that's what happens a lot of times. We've gotten people in the past definitely that come and say, I want this particular person, and they'll give you, all of the different data, the attributes or what have you, in what they want in a person. And that's fine, especially when it comes to like the personality traits, right? You want somebody loving, kind, caring, those types of things. Obviously, that's what anybody would want, any, normally functioning person would want in a relationship. However, when it comes to dynamics as far as appearance or aesthetics go, that's a little bit different. Yeah, you can ask for those things. And yeah, there are some high-level spell work that can get you those types of dynamics. However, that may not be what you need. So that's why I'm harking here on, we're talking about Akose, which is about alignment. You might want this, beautiful, voluptuous woman or this really strong, masculine, muscular male, but that may not be what you need in your life, right? We want somebody who is aligned with our destiny, who is going to help us to grow, because that's what any relationship is about. Any relationship teaches us about ourselves first and foremost, and how we relate to other people, and it is designed to help us grow. And growth doesn't always happen just because somebody is physically attractive to you. Now, I'm saying that's not important either. So I'm not saying you take Love Akose and all of a sudden you're going to get somebody who you're not physically attracted to. All of it goes hand in hand, but that's not the emphasis. Here, the emphasis is going to be on you getting with somebody who you're aligned with, okay? The goal is going to be to, enhance that attractiveness, enhance harmony in a relationship, whether it's already established or not, okay? It's not meant to override your destiny. It's not meant to force something that doesn't exist either, because that's another thing. Sometimes people want to go and get Love Akose because they want a specific person, and you can get in a danger zone there. If you're already with someone, if you're already married to someone, let me say that, it's okay to harmonize the dynamics of that relationship in most instances. You still want to check, because just because you're married to somebody doesn't mean that that person is truly aligned with your destiny. You could have not made a great decision there and be with somebody who is actually going to hinder you in the long run. However, it will be more agreeable, right, from a traditional perspective, for you to get some Akose that is going to work to harmonize those dynamics. But when it comes to you wanting somebody, even if you're like just in a relationship with them, you're dating them or what have you, you're like, I want this person to ask me to marry them, or I want to marry this person, and you go and do love work to force that connection, that is not part of destiny alignment, right? So you would first ask, is this person aligned with me? And then you would proceed through that process with your owl on how to do the work in an appropriate way. All right. That being said, you don't have to suffer through heartbreak, loneliness, an unhappy home, or any of those things, because there are so many spiritual tools that are available to help you through these processes, guys. So you don't have to feel like any aspect of life when it comes to Ifa is about our holistic well-being. So any area that you're suffering in, just like I talked about with the protection and the prosperity, and we're going to talk about with the health later on, any area that you're suffering in, Ifa is designed to help you to move forward and progress in the area of your life, so that you're not consistently in a space of suffering or imbalance. And it's the same thing with love. It's definitely okay to use it, but to use it in the right way. So now we're going to jump into some common signs that indicate that there are imbalances. You need to probably take care of it if you're in a relationship or you want to be in a relationship. As always, let me give a disclaimer here though. Understand that love challenges may come from so many different roots, so many different causes. All right. That could also include misalignment with spiritual forces. In that case, oftentimes that can be settled by giving sacrifices. However, in some cases, it would still require Akose depending on the circumstance. Likewise, there are also relationship issues that occur because of mental or emotional health issues that need to be resolved from that level versus just taking Love Akose. So as always, you do want to check if you're working with somebody who is doing this properly, right, who is dealing with the dynamics of Ifa in the proper way, they're automatically going to check and make sure that, they're giving you something that's aligned with your destiny. Now, some signs that you are having some imbalances that you probably need to take care of on a spiritual level: cycles of toxic or one-sided relationships. If you keep finding yourself being with just toxic people, you can never, ever, ever kind of get out of that cycle. There's definitely something at the core, at the root of that probably is spiritual, and you want to go and take care of it spiritually. The answer is not to just go into another relationship, because that's oftentimes what people do. I got a question here. You're saying, can you give sacrifices to the Orishas outside? I don't really understand the question. I assume you mean, can you do sacrifices like outside of a home or something like that, absolutely. Sacrifices, when you're talking about giving blood, 9 times out of 10 in traditional culture, so in Yoruba land, it's definitely going to be done outside because you're handling blood. But I assume that's what you mean. If not, make sure you clarify that for me. Um, you're saying here, leave those love spells alone. They come rooted deeply and it's very serious. So if you're talking about spell work, definitely it can be very, very serious. It can cause some problems. So we're talking about a Akoshe here, which is not the same as love spells. I do not, I'm like you, I don't really agree with dealing with love spells. That's when you are basically manipulating somebody, trying to force a connection to come. So I don't agree with that notion personally. Do people do it, as I said before? Absolutely. But, you know, you have to make your own decisions because it will come back around on you and it won't be so pretty when you decide to use something that is not in alignment with your destiny. A crochet is a remedy. It is medicine to help you to overcome challenges, whatever they may be when it comes to love, prosperity, etc., etc. Okay. So whenever you're dealing with emotional detachment, avoidance of intimacy, those are really, really common signs. Usually that stems in the childhood when somebody has dealt with issues of abandonment, maybe from one or both parents, or abuse from one or both parents, and things like that. So you're asking me, can I define a crochet? So a crochet is spiritual medicine. It's when you're going to use natural constituents along with incantations, prayers, other high level spiritual work in order for a person to use a remedy to overcome certain things, whether it be challenges with love, as we're discussing today, or health issues or money issues, etc. Okay. You're saying self-love is attraction. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to get into that as well because that's important too. When you, it is, and I am going to say this, it is, but it's not always enough because there are some deep-seated issues that people have with love where no matter how confident they are, no matter how much they love themselves, it can be difficult for them to attract the right person. And I'll talk about, why that occurs. So, right here, difficulty in attracting a quality mate. This is what so many people deal with in today's world. It's not necessarily that people aren't attracting mates. It's that they're not getting with the right people who are going to be a blessing to them in the long run. And that's not what you want. Okay. So you're saying, sorry, I meant to say offerings instead of sacrifices, like giving issue candy, but leaving it outside in the grass. In Ifa, I'm going to say it this way, in Ishesha, you give offerings to a consecrated icon or pot. I know what you're talking about. That's not the way it's done in Ishesha. That's not the way I do it. That is not the way I encourage anybody to do it. You're just leaving candy outside in the grass or anywhere else, and it's not left in a shrine, in a space that's dedicated to that spiritual force. Like, what is that doing? I know people do that, and it's not against you that I say it in this way, but I don't really understand that notion of people who are doing these types of things. I get that there are so many different derivatives of the tradition and things had to go in a different way, but that's not Ishesha. Ishesha, you're going to always give offerings to a consecrated pot or an icon. Sometimes you'll leave them at the crossroads and things like that, but that's when you're told to do so. Right, there are some stipulations, but again, it's not just you wake up and decide I want to go and leave some candy for SU, and you don't have a working relationship with an SU icon or pot. So I hope that clarifies it for you. Somebody who is always in a space of jealousy, obsessive type of love, right? Fear of attachment, things like that. That is a major imbalance. These are things that should not be ignored. Like normal jealousy in a relationship is usual, it's typical. But when you find yourself being just overly jealous, you can't stand for your partner to be with somebody else of the opposite sex or even the same sex. If you're in a same sex type of relationship, you're always getting jealous and things like that. That is more than what is normal. Any type of obsessive behavior is not good. And those things definitely need to be checked out, whether it be spiritually or medically. So you're saying different tribes, different practices. I don't know what you mean by different tribes, different practices. Like Ifa comes from the Yoruba people, so that's one tribe. Maybe you're talking about the derivatives in like the Caribbean and the Americas and things like that. So definitely, when it comes to that notion, we have it practiced in different regions. Definitely, so many different practices. I do Isheshe. I talk about Isheshe. I can't answer a lot of the other questions that come with the Lukumi, Santeria, Apollo, and other traditions because that's not what I practice. Even though I know things about them, I don't practice it and I haven't seen benefits from things like that. I'll say it in that way. You're saying which is better, working with Oshun to find love or using a Akose? Depends on your situation, and we're going to get to that. I'm going to talk about Oshun and other Orishas that are connected to the dynamic of love. Now, again, it does heavily depend on your circumstance. Like Oshun may be able to just bring that to you, no issue. But if you're dealing with deep-seated issues connected to love relationships, you probably would need a Akose. Okay. Somebody dealing with the repeated heartbreak or betrayal, that's a sign that if it's happening over and over again, that's an imbalance that you definitely need to check on. Constantly getting into arguments with your mate, things left unresolved for prolonged periods of time. All of these are some significant challenges you need to look at. Even so, feeling unseen, unloved, undesired, despite putting in your best efforts into a relationship. It's not just, oh, this is the way it is, right? There could be some really deep-seated issues that you need to look into. So if any of you guys have noticed these issues, let me know in the comments and what you've done about it if you have. So we have a question here or a statement. You said the way he's saying to leave the candy in the grass. I've heard of that. But as you said, it's not your way of practice. Absolutely, absolutely. So those come from derivatives of Ifa that are oftentimes practiced in the Caribbean islands, the Americas, those types of areas where you see those types of things go on most often. How do these challenges manifest in love? As I said before, there are so many different reasons behind it. It definitely can be issues related to grief, abandonment by one or both parents, as I said before, childhood issues related to sexual abuse. That's a major thing. If you've gone through that, there are spiritual remedies that can help you out. Likewise, there is also, psychosocial dynamics that can help you out to work through those things. They need to be worked through, guys. You don't just sit on that and keep moving and act like everything is okay. Because if you don't take care of it, it is 9 times out of 10 going to manifest in issues later on when it comes to companionship with you and a prospective mate. All right. Blockages. So when you have soul ties, that's a major thing that people don't really realize. This is one of the reasons why I'm constantly cautioning. I usually say women, but it applies to men too, about being with multiple sexual partners, because you're creating a soul tie with everybody that you are with, and you're taking it over and over and over again into your next relationship. This is why a lot of people walk in high level confusion, because they're dealing with so many people's energy through the dynamic of sex, and they're intaking that. It can and does happen with people all across the spectrum, but it definitely impacts women more so because women are receivers. So that energy is actually going into you, penetrating you whenever you're involved in a sexual relationship. And so soul ties are real. and they can cause you many problems in relationships. Obviously, somebody can put curses on you, right? Negative energy sending it your way, spell work to keep you from being in a sustainable relationship. It could be your ex partners, especially if they don't want you to be with someone else, kind of like that. If I can't have you, nobody else will scenario, or even so rivals. Somebody may be jealous of you. They may want your mate, so they may try to go and do some negative spell work against you to cause you guys to break up. Okay. There's some generational things that can likewise go on. So family things that are connected to maybe vows that you made or your family made for you to get married to someone, especially if it was done in a spiritual nature, vows of celibacy, just so many different dynamics there. So you might have to even check back with your family lineage if you're having repeated problems of love. It's with love and relationships, I should say, especially if you're seeing this dynamic through and through your family. Okay. I know someone who has this issue. It's about, I don't know, I want to say 6 or 7 children, but the mother, she was divorced. I think she remarried. She remarried once, and all of her children, that ended up happening to them. They ended up getting divorced and then remarrying, and then most of them ended up divorcing again after that. And the entire all of her children have issues with sustainable relationships. Okay, they're Christians. I don't talk to them about 85, so I don't get into it, but I can clearly see that there are spiritual dynamics going on in those people's situations. And the answer, which they think it is just to go and get married again, which is not, because they ended up getting divorced oftentimes. How would Akose work with someone seeking a consensual polygamous marriage? The same dynamic. So we're talking about alignment, right? So if you're taking Akose, you want to align with the right person. And that could actually be really, really helpful when you're talking about the dynamics of polygamy and both partners are in agreement with this, right? So not just talking about somebody who one person, the man most of the time, right, wants to be polygamous, but the woman doesn't. But this is a situation, and you did say consensual, so my bad there. So it's a situation when both people are consenting and they want to find somebody else to complement their relationship, multiple people even. So they can take a coach to attract the right people so that they make sure that they're not making a mistake and inviting the wrong people into their relationship, because that's some heavy work. It's not something to just we're going to go and deal with polygamy just because it's the popular thing to do, right? This is a major part of the Yoruba culture as a whole, the traditional culture. A lot of people have moved away from it in today's world, but yet and still it's part of Ifa, right? There are actually Odu verses that says that there is good in certain instances for a man to have more than one wife. So in that case, you want to use that. Even so, another example would be to bring harmony into those dynamics. So if the people are already in those polygamous relationships and they're having trouble, take some Akose to smooth things out, to harmonize the dynamics, to bring peace into their home. Because any home, anytime you got two people working together, that's a very, very powerful force. So negativity is always going to come in because you got two people working together for the betterment of their household, which means it's going to be for the betterment of society as a whole. And it's just going to there's always going to be some kind of issues that want to come and break those types of dynamics up. So it's great to use Akose if the need requires, if it's required. Sometimes it can just be, it doesn't always have to be Akose, but going back to it, it's about harmony, living in divine harmony. So if you've made previous attempts to manipulate love or force something to come into being that wasn't meant to be, you can cause yourself issues with love and relationships and things like that in the future. So you definitely want to be careful with those dynamics. Okay. Whenever you're violating your personal taboos, especially if they're related to intimacy, sex, romantic expression, and things like that. So, you want to definitely be careful with that whenever you get those, because they're in place for a reason. If you violate them, you can cause yourself harm in relationships. So that's another dynamic. As I said before, negative self-talk, you're cursing yourself. Anytime you talk negatively about yourself, if you consistently say that, you're unlovable, you're unattractive, whatever it may be, then those things are going to manifest in your life. So that's what it's going to look like. And so you ruin your confidence, which in and of itself is a major, major thing when it comes to people connecting, dating, relating, and things like that. Okay. You all already knew I was going to say this. Definitely having issues with an IGB mate, a spouse, right? So if you have an astral spouse, that spouse can cause you many, many problems in your romantic connections here on this earth. Somebody asked the question, well, a few people asked this question about whether or not people made agreements to not get married when they came into this earth. Sometimes that does happen with your egg mate. You may have made an agreement that you wouldn't be with anybody else when you came to earth, and obviously you forget that agreement and you decide that that is something that you want to do later on, but you can never make those attachments strong or stick. Why? Because your IGB mate is preventing that, because you're violating a promise that you made to them before you left the heavenlies. There are ways to remedy that, though. It's not like you're stuck in that space forever. You can definitely go and do some work to appease your IGB so that they can allow your relationship to be smooth. And allow you to be able to connect with people on a higher level. So you're asking here, when using Love Akose, how would I meet the potential partners? Good question. Will we cross paths, or would I have to actively try to find them once start using the Akose? How would the Akose things work out? Okay, beautiful question, which I was going to get to this too, but I do want to address it here. So when it comes to this, anytime you're taking, I won't say protection Akose, it's a little bit different, but when you're taking like Love Akose, Prosperity Akose, things like that, you want to have some opening there, right? And so when it comes to love, you are going to have to be able to put yourself in situations. You're not going to just sit in the house. That's my point, right? The Akose will work sometimes in saying, they're just showing you like, you need to go to this particular place. And in doing so, you'll meet the right person that's meant for you right there. It can happen in so many different ways, but that opening needs to be there for you to be able to meet someone. You can't just sit in the house all day. For some people, there are always exceptions. So it's some people that love may come to your door. It may literally happen that way. Somebody just knocks at your door and they are selling something, and you meet them, and then you guys spark off a conversation, and it happens like that. Or it could be like some cross switches or something where somebody mistakenly calls you, because that has happened before in a connection that happened through Akose, where two people actually it was a wrong call. They called a wrong number, and then they got to talking, and then they formed a relationship, ended up getting married. So it can happen in so many different ways. It's not by force, though, if that's what you're asking. So it's not like, okay, I take the Akose and I gotta go here. The Akose will let you know. Likewise, the Akose will let you know when you meet the person that is for you. And I hope they answered your question. You're asking on IG, do I sell this? So we absolutely work with all forms of Akose, anything related to the Ifa tradition. Now, is it something that you could just go on the website and purchase? No, I don't think we have that. So if you would like something like that, just DM me and I can tell you the process of how to get it. Most of the time we do it for people who we work with, so established clients or ELA members. But of course we can work with other people with it. but we would want to have a deeper level conversation. Alafia, greetings. Let's see. You said you need that because we wilding out in my house. Hey, a lot of people do. It has helped tremendously. So many different relationships. Help people not even go through a divorce process when that was imminent. Or they thought it was imminent because they were going through so many different problems in their household. So it can definitely help. But going back to that, definitely your egg bait can be an issue. You could have made a covenant with them that you weren't going to get married. You're not stuck in that forever. You can do things to appease them in order to break that covenant or at least assuage that covenant so that way they can relax and give you some peace in your relationships on the earth. All right. So know that, you don't have to be in a relationship also to be affected by any type of love energy. It can happen in so many different ways, right? So you can be single and have so many issues when it comes to these dynamics. You are saying you have a spiritual wife. So, yeah, those spiritual spouses can be brutal. And also for anybody that just coming in, I don't know if I said it earlier, but definitely we did a longer episode, a longer live about spiritual spouses. And you can check that out and gain a deeper understanding about how those dynamics work and, deal with that if you need to. You say you have a mammy water. I guess you're saying that's your mammy water spiritual wife. Okay. All right. Now, let's look at the dynamics of love, lust, and lasting connections, guys. So, when it comes to Love Akose, this is going to align your heart energy with the energy that's related to your Ori, all right, your destiny, what you came in here to do, all right, and the person that complements it. That's what this is all about. It's about divine alignment. It doesn't guarantee a specific outcome, though, not Love Akose. Because as I said before, yeah, you can go and do that spell work and get it for a specific person or get it to bring forth specific traits or characteristics. That's not alignment. That's not necessarily alignment, okay? But it's going to open up those pathways, right? So that you can make the right connection, so that you can heal if you need to and reconcile certain issues. But it's not going to force somebody to choose you. That's not what Love Akose is about. You're saying, why is love and money, currency, and career so closely related? That's a good question, right? They all come, everything, all of those are part of, your lower level chakras, right? That's the base of who you are, your basic being, everything related to security, related to us just being able to live in the material realm. So I would imagine that is why all of those dynamics, they all definitely interrelate, because if you don't have the money, you can definitely have issues. You probably will have issues even if you're in a relationship. Money issues cause so many problems in relationships. Okay, so now sometimes Love Akose helps you let go too. So it's not always about attracting someone. Sometimes it's about detaching, because as I said before, those soul ties can keep you attached to somebody else. So even if you go into another relationship, you can never really fully enjoy that relationship or even sustain that relationship if you are connected to somebody else. And sometimes you actually need to release those unhealthy bonds in order for you to have a solid relationship or a solid connection in the future. Okay. Some of it is also crafted to help you to overcome issues with heartbreak, betrayal, trauma, etc., especially after a difficult loss. Even so, it could be a situation where you lost a mate, right? A spouse who you were with for years and you're suffering from deep griefs. Love Akose can help open your heart up again after those types of scenarios occur. All right. Love work, when we're talking about a crochet, it should always, we're talking about E5, it should always be ethical, all right? Using a crochet to control, manipulate, or obsess over somebody that's imbalanced, that is not what you do. It's only going to cause you problems. You're saying, how do you know if there is still an attachment? You would check. You would get either EDAFA or do a spiritual investigation to check and see. A lot of times you just know, like, especially if the relationship has ended long ago and you're still consistently thinking about this person, obsessing over this person, ruminating over this person. Yeah, you definitely have a soul tie with that individual, especially if it's been years. I mean, it's normal, few months, even maybe up to a year, depending on the connection you had with that person, for you to still think about them. But if you are, feel like you have intrusive thoughts, obsessive thoughts that you just can't get rid of, yeah, you have a soul tie there. Greetings, Samantha. Thank you for joining us, and greetings everybody else who is joining. Welcome. Thank you all for showing up. Honesty is very, very essential, guys. We talk about Love Akose. This is not for you to just be dealing with so many different people's energy all at once, and for you to have these different hidden motives and things like that in order to attract a relationship. This is about dealing with honesty and integrity. All right. It's also important for you to do the inner work. Akosha can help you with that, as I said before, because it works in many different ways. It's going to work based on your specific needs. Everybody doesn't need Akosha to attract somebody else. Everybody doesn't need the Akosha to break up a soul tie or to bring harmony into their relationship. We're going to look at different ways that it does work. But either way, you need to be doing the inner work on yourself. A relationship, you need to have a relationship with yourself first and foremost, and then also with your mate. So you still might need other things. It's not to say you just take a coach, you get the person, and you can do whatever things you want to do in the relationship or be whatever kind of way you want to be. Sometimes to maintain a relationship, you have to deal with some behavioral modifications on your part. All right. And so you need to be ready for that reality as well. Be ready to make the changes if necessary within yourself. All right. This is not about fantasy. All right. This is about real connections that are going to make a real difference in your life. It's not about like, oh, I want to be with, I was about to say somebody's name, but I don't want to call somebody's name. But let's just say you obsessed over a famous person, for instance, that you see in the media, and you like, I'm gonna go take some coaching so I can be with this person. It's not what it's about. Okay, this is not the type of thing that is for. It's about you establishing real communication, real connection with people who can aid you along in your destiny. Now we're going to look at different types of love work, inclusive of Akosha, and how they work together, as we always do. You're saying, I guess it's supposed to be Iwa Pele. Yeah, Iwa Pele. Absolutely. Thank you for that. You got to live in gentle character. So you still have the other options available, the charms, Ilekis, Ibo, Akosha, etc. There's also spell work available. I don't cover that because that is not part of what we promote or deal with in our Elay, not to do this type of malevolent spell work or what have you. So, yeah, you're saying you were Pele. I knew that's what you meant. So charms, right? I'd like to go through my spiel like I did with the other ones, how they all work in collaborations. Charms and Ilekis, they can help to draw people to you, to attract people to you, bring harmony and affection in your life, depending on what it is for, okay? Ebo is about that exchange, the energy exchange. You give something in order to get something, so it can bring balance back into your love life, restore troubled relationships, soften people's hearts, things like that. Ebo can absolutely work in that regard. It doesn't always take the love Akosha. But the Akosha, we're going to be dealing with some deeper level spiritual concerns, all right? Recurring issues, especially when any type of negative spell work has been done against you, you're probably going to need a crochet to remedy them. All right. Dealing with karmic patterns, things that either came through you or your foreparents that can cause you issues. Those are deep seated, so you're going to need something deeper level to get rid of it, or other spiritual issues that are involved. Akosha can also align you with divine timing, so that's what somebody asked you about earlier. It can put you in the right place at the right time to meet the right partner. All right, helping you to avoid situations that you may feel like this is ideal. You meet somebody and you're so in love or what have you, but it's not necessarily what's for you. um Charms and elections. So I'm going to give you this example that I came up with, so you can kind of put things in perspective. Just an example, you can think of charms and elections sort of like a dating app, right? You can it used to like get you in front of the right people, increasing your odds of finding someone. Everybody on the dating app, obviously, hopefully, is looking to find somebody to hook up with, to date. It could be long term, it could be short term. They might be looking for, permanent relationship, etc. Right? But the purpose of a dating app is to help you to get noticed by people who have the same mindset as you, versus you just kind of walking out, in public and just hoping like you meet somebody, right? And so even let me step back. Obviously, you could pray for the right person to come into your life, and that could absolutely work. In those cases, you can kind of see prayer as like maybe, you sprucing yourself up, right? Ladies wearing the makeup, or we call it perfume or cologne for both men and women, dressing really nice, putting your best foot forward. That's kind of like, the prayer dynamic, where you are going to do something to enhance your chances of getting seen. But when you go with the dating apps, you're taking that next step to say, I'm going to put myself in front of people who are absolutely looking for the same thing that I'm looking for. And it's kind of like that charms and eleckies when you go to that next level. Now, the EBO, that would be compared to, like, let's say, an elite matchmaking service, right? You're going to invest more time and energy in attracting people. You're going to invest more money too, right? Because you dealing with an elite matchmaking service, it's going to cost you more money. Right, the results are going to be more filtered, so you're not going to just be out there in a dating pool with everybody at this point. You're going to be in a special pool of people, and somebody is going to be there to help navigate the process so that you guys can make a resolute decision. So it increases your odds of making a quality match. And then the Akoshe, right, is going to be like maybe you going and actually working with like a transformational relationship coach, somebody who is going to really dig deep down in you and help you figure out those barriers that you have to finding the right love in your life. All right, help you to heal from the past, shift those patterns, those dynamics that keep you stuck or keep you going around in the same circle or what have you, help you to build up your emotional intelligence and align with purposeful connections. So that's just an example of like the hierarchy of how these dynamics work together. Now we're going to talk about the Orishas that are connected to love, harmony, and romance. So, of course, everybody knows that Oshun is the Orisha of love. All right. She's about the beauty, the attractiveness, and things of that nature. She rules that, feminine power, sensuality, intimacy. So that's baseline. Right, that's at the root of love, that people are going to be attracted to each other, for them to even come together as a unit. So that's just kind of that physical, that raw physical nature. Shango is likewise in that same space. He rules over male virility, though. So that masculine energy, that energy that's more assertive, confident, passionate, that energy that is going to make a person, come up to another person, even if they may be shy, maybe a little bit bold. So it could be male or female. Obviously, in society, traditionally, this role is reserved for the male, for him to come up and ask the woman and things like that. But we live in a world today where women are just as bold, right? So either way, that's kind of like that Shango energy going on in that regard, that stamina and so forth. Keep going, keep moving. Oba, all right, would support the dynamic of loyalty, long-term commitment, in relationships, especially when it comes to devoted partnerships. All right. Umoya definitely is more maternal and nurturing. However, she rules that emotional safety net when it comes to relationship dynamics. Oshun plays a role in that as well, but Oshun is more so about like just that initial attractiveness or what have you. Um, where people, really want to be together, that kind of spark chemistry or what have you. All right. Umoya, she especially is helpful for healing issues related to your childhood past because that's her domain, all right, that can affect those adult relationship dynamics. Arumula, all right, supports relationship through wisdom and insight, making good decisions when choosing a person, but also being in a relationship with a person. Upright living. So he helps you to walk in integrity in a relationship. So keeping that bond strong by not, going astray and having all these extra things, side chick, side, what they call the men? Side. I know the women side chicks and side men. I don't know what y'all call them, but whatever they call these dynamics, not having all those things together. Ogun would govern the commitment, right? The protection aspects of the relationship, even so loyalty and perseverance and things like that. So there are other Orishas, obviously, that can work with these dynamics, as with any. Okay, I'm sorry. I got a response to the my question. So you said it's a side nigga. That's what the response is. That I guess is what you call the male. Thank you for that. Okay, so going back to what I was saying. All of these Orishas can play a role in you getting love and things like that. You may actually give them elbow and things like that to work with you. It really just y'all are laughing at me. Yes, that was funny. Caught me off guard. But you can work with any of these Orishas to give you love. Again, you want to check to see which one is going to help you. Don't just assume it's Oshun just because she rules love, because that's what everybody thinks. Well, I want to connect with Oshun. She may not be helping you out in that dynamic. It could be Ogun. It could be Shango. It could be any Orisha. It really just depends on what you need at that particular time. When you do a crochet work, it is very, very common for you to give an offering to an Orisha. So again, any of the Orishas could come up because their energy would be needed to actually help to kind of bring that a crochet to life. It depends on what you're taking, what you need it for. Okay, so but a lot of times it's going to be great to give an offering. You can work with Oshun. You can say, I want to get an Oshun pie and just work with Oshun because I want to bring this love into my life. Absolutely. It's nothing, against that. But again, understand that it's not always what you think. Just because an Orisha rules over a particular domain, it's not that Orisha is going to be the one to help you out every time you're dealing with a situation within that particular domain. All right. So who should use Love Akose? All right. People who are experiencing repeated heartbreak and betrayal, if this is constantly happening to you, there's a problem in your love life. You should probably be taking some Akose for it to overcome whatever the challenges that you're having. Couples who are dealing with deep-seated or ongoing relationship issues, if it's something that is workable, I always say check to see, is it good for you to stay with that person? Because it may not be. But if it is good for you to stay with that person, you can absolutely take a crochet and work things out. So many relationships I've seen saved by people using these dynamics because they were ready. They were on the end. They were like, I'm tired of this. I don't want to be in this situation. They, one or both partners, it just depends on the situation, would take the Love Akose. Things worked out. The couple is enjoying a beautiful relationship, not problem free, but a really beautiful relationship to this day. All right. But it depends on what you need, your needs. I'm not saying just stay with somebody. Just go take some Love Akose so you can stay with this person. If they're not right for you, that person is involved in things that you don't need in your life, that's not going to be a good idea. So you need to check and make sure first. Individuals who desire long-term partnership but struggling to find those right partners. In some situations, it may be struggling to find a partner at all. In other situations, it's just struggling to find a quality partner. Just keep, missteps, the wrong person keep coming into your life or what have you. Wrong people. Individuals who are recovering from divorce or past toxic relationships. Akose is really great for this to cleanse out that emotional body before you move on to another relationship, especially if we're talking about something like a divorce where people were connected through that particular dynamic. But even so, if it was a long-standing relationship and you guys maybe didn't get married, but you lived together and you had a relationship that was akin to a marriage, all that was missing was the paperwork, I would definitely suggest doing a crochet to help you out if you plan on transitioning to another relationship later on. All right. Individuals who are seeking healing from generational patterns, if you're constantly seeing people, like I said before, in your family line getting a divorce, singlehood, where nobody in the family is getting married, but maybe they keep having babies or what have you, but it's just this perpetual singlehood dynamic is going on. Lots of abandonment issues, mistrust, misuse of sexual energy, as I discussed before. So if there is incidences of sexual abuse that continuously happen in a family line, I would definitely suggest you look at the spiritual roots of that and deal with it that way, because it's more than just a social issue at that point if it's happening over and over and over again. Love Akose is not just about attracting guys. It's about transforming your destiny. That's what all of the tools in Ifa are meant to do. So you want to use them as such. How does it work? All right. So how does these things work? When you take Love Akose, and it can come in so many different formulas as well. I forgot to put that up because I've been talking about Akose for so long. So it can come in many different ways. The powders, the teas, soaps, lotions, different tinctures, so many different ways it can come. Just depends on your particular needs, okay? For it to work properly, you have to have that opening. I did say that earlier, some kind of passageway. You must be open to receiving love and affection, all right? Unless you're taking a crochet to help you out with that. That's why, again, it's always best to check to see what you need, because it may be a situation where you need a crochet to open up your heart. In that case, obviously, you don't need an open heart. You're going to take the crochet to help you do that. But, just to go and get something to attract people, you're attracting people and your heart isn't in a good space, you're just going to lose them. So it's pointless, all right? Understand that your behavior plays a major role in you getting and maintaining the love that you desire. Once that crochet does its job, if it's to attract people to you, you still got to be a decent person. You don't, treat them rudely, disrespect them, so forth and so on, and expect somebody to want to be with you. You still have to be able to show up properly in a relationship as your authentic self. Yes, but if your authentic self is rude or disrespectful, you need to go ahead and do some things to change that about your authentic self, okay? So those dynamics are important as well. So it's going to help in three major areas: attraction, detachment, or harmonization, as I said before. So you can take a crochet and it can just attract people to you. You take it and you go out and attract the right people. Let me say that too. It's not just anybody and everybody. You're going to be attracting the right type of dynamics to you, the people who are meshing with your energy, who are in alignment with your aura and your destiny. They'll come to you, the people that you're meant to meet, or the person, rather. It's not multiple people necessarily if you're just looking for a permanent relationship, okay? As I said before, it can inspire you to be in the right place at the right time to meet the right person. It can boost your confidence. So some people have issues with speaking to people, especially men. Some men are shy. Every man is not an alpha male like we tend to think of, and some men don't have the courage or the boldness to go and ask a female out or what have you, or whatever dynamic they're looking for. They don't necessarily have their boldness, so they miss out on a lot of relationships. So a coach that can help you be more confident and bold to speak out, to speak to people. Even so, for the recipient, so if it's a female, like even though you may not be the one that's initiating or approaching the other person, you can still have issues with confidence when you are approached. So sometimes a crochet will be necessary so that you can, hold your head high and have those conversations to move down that path of love. Help you make better decisions when choosing relationships. I think this is probably the number one issue that most people face. They get the relationships, but oftentimes it's the wrong relationships because they base their decisions on or made off of the wrong things. A lot of times it's very superficial, okay? Instead of it being something that is going to actually help you to choose somebody that you can make a good decision with and you can live with later on. It can also help dissolve those attachments to ex-lovers, those soul ties, unhealthy obsessive situations that I talked about before. It can show you what areas you or your partner need to make those behavioral modifications in, and how to do so. Because it could be you, it could be your partner, it could be both of you guys. It can also help you to not be inappropriate, to not over or inappropriately react to conflicts, or have better conflict management resolutions or situations going on there, because that causes a lot of issues in relationship. It can guide you to express your needs more clearly, because communication is a major issue in relationship. A lot of times people just expect other people to read their minds, and that should never be an expectation in a relationship. It can strengthen your ability to receive love if you have issues in that area. It can help you let go of unrealistic expectations when it comes to love dynamics, because that's a major issue too. If your expectations are unrealistic, you will never find somebody to meet your needs, because you're always going to be looking for something that doesn't exist. It can encourage you to even so set clearer boundaries, set and maintain, I should have stated, clearer boundaries, because some people have issues in that area. They're always being taken advantage of in a romantic partnership. And if that's you, you might need some crochet to help you get stronger in that area, so that you're not, first of all, attracting people who are going to try to do that to you. And if you do, you'll learn how to stand up for yourself much better. It can bring peace and balance to romantic or platonic partnerships, as I said before. So, what do you do after you've gotten in crochet, you've taken it? What happens next? All right. So, you still want to avoid just jumping into relationships without understanding the deeper level insight, especially when we're talking about a crochet that is going to attract people to you. Because even though it's attracting aligned people, it's an aligned person, it could be multiple people that are attracted to you. So you may not really know, like, is this the relationship that I should be in or not? Even so, if it's an aligned connection, you still don't want to just jump, especially into the sexual part of the relationship right away. Still take your time. It's not a rush. So even if you know, like, this is my person after I've taken this crochet, you should still walk through the same steps as you well, I won't say normal, as somebody who is truly trying to establish true authentic connection with somebody would. So that's taking your time to get to know the person, asking those vital questions to ensure that you're making the right decisions in your connection, things like that. Absolutely stay grounded. Emotional energy is one of the most intoxicating energy out there. So you want to remain centered and level headed when it comes to the dynamic of love. Understand that it's personal. So this is a personal decision. You don't want to start using a crochet to get somebody who is not does not consent to the relationship or doesn't want to be in a relationship, and you absolutely know that. You want to check if it's somebody that you're interested in specifically. Go and check and see if this is an aligned person, and if you should be using a crochet to attract or get with that particular person. Sometimes it's okay, but you want to check. You don't want to assume, and you definitely never want to try to force something. Okay. Observe how your dreams, your emotions, your social encounters play out whenever you're taking a crochet, to see what's going on, to see if it's, working for you, if it's connecting for you or not. You're asking here, could using a crochet influence someone or their potential partner to move locations? I know some people live in small towns, cities, etc. Could it propel someone to move or they will be local? So absolutely, if the relationship is divinely aligned, they will be okay with moving if that's the relationship or the connection that they see themselves being in long term. They should absolutely be okay with I won't let me restate. I won't say absolutely. They should be okay with moving at some point if they are ready to be in that relationship. You don't want to compel that though, right? So they may have, like, even though they love the person, they may have natural hangups, so they may have legitimate reasons why they don't want to move in order to be with that person. So it's not something to be forced. Again, this is why you want to have those conversations with whomever you're dealing with to make sure that this is truly aligned. Like, are you willing to move? If this is a possibility for us to be together, and they live in another city, another state, even so another country, right? I mean, I find that people are open to moving for love in general. So without, any type of spiritual work. So if it's meant to be, if it's a divine relationship, one or both of you may be willing to move to be with the other person. Okay. You may still face relationship challenges though, guys. It's not like you take the crochet and everything is perfect and you're gonna be like Cinderella or some stuff like that. And you just walk off into the here and yonder or wherever they go, right? After these very fantastical connections occur. You still have to live everyday life. All right. You still need to work to make sure that that connection is doing what it needs to do, just like anything else. So, this is the last section I want to talk about, sustaining those love connections. And I'm going to close up after this. So, if you guys have any lingering questions, comments, or concerns, definitely go ahead and put them in the chat box. We talked about this earlier. Somebody said self-love. That's number one. Yeah, you got to love yourself. You got to know yourself. You got to work on those dynamics. And there's also a coach that can help you out with that aspect of your life, okay? If you don't value yourself, other people will likely not value you as well. So you want to be very, very cognizant of who you are and your own level of confidence and esteem. Lasting love requires integrity, compromise, intentionality, and accountability to your partner. This is a dynamic where you're dealing with two people, as I said earlier. That's what makes Love Akose very unique, as opposed to the prosperity, the health, the protection, etc. Because now you're dealing with somebody else's energy, and you have to honor it, and you have to respect it. So, like, don't go and use Love Akose and you find the mate, and then you want to just go off and do your own thing and start dealing with other people, right? You need to have a strong awareness about you before you do that, because that doesn't make sense at the end of the day, right? So, if you have issues in that area, you need to go and do the spiritual work to get yourself some help when it comes to those dynamics. New service alert. Some of you all may have seen it already on IG or even YouTube. So we now are offering African astrology, love, and relationship, plus the compatibility readings. If you want to go deeper in analyzing yourself or you and your mate to understand if you are connected. So the love and relationship reading is actually for people who are single or who are seeking, and they want to understand themselves better and see, how who they need to be with, what kind of dynamics that they need to work with in order to be with the right person. The compatibility readings are for people who are already in a connection or they are looking at being together and they want to see, do we work well together? So those readings are based on astrology, plus they include ancestral readings so that we know that you are aligned or not with that person from a deeper level aspect. We have a sale going on now, introductory offer. You can click the link in on YouTube or either IG to get to those services if you are interested in them. Likewise, guys, if you are interested in a crochet, any form of a crochet, or any other things that we do related to the Ifa tradition, we are a full suite Ifa temple. Anything that you need, we offer it related to Ifa. Check us out, Asanee44, Asanee44.com. Many of our offerings are online. If you don't see something that you want, you can definitely DM me on IG and we can go from there with the conversation. So next week, guys, as I've said several times, we are going to cover the health of crochet because this is a little bit different as well. And I will definitely see you. Well, I'm going to say hopefully see you all there. Ashe, have a very blessed and beautiful day and beyond, guys.